Welcome to T, the Transgender Experience in Arkansas, a series of conversations with an array of transgender guests. T is filmed in the Listening Lab in the studios of KUAF National Public Radio in Fayetteville. I'm your host, Taylor Johnson. Today, our guest is Angel Renee. Angel, how are you?
I'm doing so well. How are you?
I'm amazing. It's awesome to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
So your pronouns are she, her, and you were born December 5th, 2001 in Rogers, Arkansas.
Yes, I was.
Yeah. How was growing up in Rogers?
It was okay. At first, thankfully, I grew up pretty privileged in a money sense, but growing up to become a queer individual, that definitely made it a little more tricky. It's a southern town, so of course we can't expect anything less. But besides that, it was pretty good.
How old were you when you first realized that you were trans?
Honestly, it was really recent compared to like friends of mine who came out pretty young. I happened to come out February of last year, so I'm coming up on 2 years now. So it's still pretty recent.
What do you think is the difference in coming out in the 2020s versus coming out in an earlier age? What do you think the difference in that experience would have been?
As someone who did come out twice, I came out as gay before I figured out that it was definitely more. And it overall is still a scary experience. Unfortunately, I have pretty strict religious parents, and so it makes it kind of a difficult situation overall. And I wish I could say that things were different for me personally coming out twice, but unfortunately, it's still kind of been the same in those regards. When it comes to like friends and my community, thankfully, it has been a lot easier out of school, which, you know, school can be treacherous when it comes to queer people. But now I have a community that actually accepts me. And so when I told them, it wasn't like a big coming out moment. It was just like hey, I am a woman. And they were like, okay, great. So that's definitely the biggest difference for me.
So despite, the difficulties that you've had, you seem to be thriving right now.
Trying, yes.
You are a professional trans drag queen artist. You have won C4's Next Top Entertainer. You've appeared in Northwest Arkansas's Fashion Week, and you've appeared at Crystal Bridges in their Fashioning America exhibit. Do you want to talk about those experiences?
Yeah, so doing drag, it can be very competitive, especially in smaller areas because there's just not as many opportunities. And so you have to do competitions like these. And at the time I was doing C4's Next Top Entertainer, I was in 2 other competitions as well, both in Little Rock. And it was very scary. It was very tight on timing. But I managed to snatch 1 crown, at least, and that has launched my drag career, thankfully, and I've gotten to do plenty of opportunities because of it, including performing with RuPaul's Drag Race alumni like Detox or Dragula, their alumni as well, and I've gotten to meet a lot of people. I've gotten to perform out of state now, which is very exciting, and thankfully, due to this crown, I have gotten to do a lot, and I plan on competing more, and we'll see where that goes. But Fashion Week, that was a big thing. Coming out as trans and not feeling like I may have a place in fashion and modeling was a scary road to start on. But I've gotten to do it for 3 seasons now. And I even got to be in their campaign for one of them. It was called Model Citizen, where it was a big time for voting and making sure our new generation coming into voting is being held accountable and knowing that we have our voice. And that was a great opportunity, being able to show that we as queer people need to be at the ballots and need to be showing ourselves there. And then the Crystal Bridges exhibit, I didn't actually know that I was going to be in Crystal Bridges at the time. They just asked me if I wanted to model for one of their students in their clothing. And then when I showed up and I got put in the outfit and the hair done and everything, they went, "Oh, by the way, some of you will be in Crystal Bridges." I was shocked. It gagged me for sure. And seeing myself up there, it was a really it was a big moment for me because I knew that I had a spot at the table and I was able to sit there and be welcomed and know that thousands of people, because it was up for 6 months, I believe. And so that showed that thousands of people were getting to see my face per day, along with others. It was in the same exhibit as a gown Rihanna wore at the Met and Beyonce's clothing and Destiny's Child. Like, I was in the same exhibit. And it was very assuring to me that I was able to do the same things that other people get to do.
So you could say these experiences were really validating for yourself, your identity, and your career.
Of course, yes. It shows that I'm able to push past just here, even getting to go beyond. Because if I'm able to do it here, I feel like I can do it anywhere.
Do you notice any differences between the Fayetteville queer community and the Little Rock queer community, or other pockets of the state or other states?
I think as a whole, Arkansas queer people, we're all on the same base, if that makes sense. Like, we're all going through the same things, the same trials and laws and bills trying to be passed. And on that account, we're all kind of the same. I find that as communities start to form and we all start to become friends, there are differences, of course. But honestly, as a whole, it's really nice to know that we're all one unit trying to fight for equality together.
Do you mind sharing with us your sexual orientation?
Now, that's a tricky question because I don't necessarily know where I stand. My friends would like to say that I'm straight since I'm a woman now. But honestly, it's more of a pan feeling because I don't push anyone out, but I also am not looking. So it's like whatever comes will come, you know, and whatever will come my way, I will accept into my life. But I'm not necessarily looking for just one specific thing.
Were there any aspects of the dating scene that surprised you after you've come into your trans identity that you kind of didn't foresee before?
The dating scene is a little tricky of a situation because at first I didn't think that many people would be interested and would be confused and weirded out since this is such a small area. I found out that unfortunately it's the opposite, but not in a good way. I've learned that a lot of people can fetishize trans people and see us as just objects for pleasure rather than an actual human being. And so even though I am being wanted, it's not in a genuine heartfelt way. It's in a sexual gross way that I don't want to be a part of. And that's kind of a big reason why I'm not necessarily looking for anything, just because in the moments I've tried, I've just been dealt with that. So with that being said, it's not the greatest, but also I'm not necessarily needing that. So honestly, I'm just kind of chilling at the moment.
Are you or have you received gender affirming medical treatment? Would you be willing to talk about that?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have not gotten the chance to yet. I really want to. Thankfully, my day job, which is boring, they give great medical and my day job, they give actual care to trans people and they'll pay for my hormones and they'll pay for those things. I just have to get on that. So hopefully within the next month or two, I'm going to be starting that medical journey, which is going to be quite interesting.
So tell us why you started to perform.
Well, I've been performing since I was 10, I believe. I grew up doing musical theater. My sister did it. I saw her performing and I knew I really wanted to do it. So I started and I've been doing musicals and plays all through high school. And I even tried to go to college for musical theater. And then I found drag and I thought that that kind of gave me the best of all worlds. I get to act, I get to perform, I get to dance, and I get to have an audience watching me, which is always fun. So musicals and plays are fun, but drag it's on my time. It's on what I want to wear, what I want to perform. So, like I said, it's the best of all worlds, honestly.
Tell us about Divinity.
Well, at first, I went through a lot of names before I came to Angel Divinity, but Angel was the starting point because the first ever queer representation I ever saw was from the musical Rent. Have you ever seen it? It has a trans character named Angel in it, and I immediately latched with her, and she has been someone who I've looked up to and kept with me until today. And I knew that that's what my name had to be. And then Divinity, I was thinking of different names and different combinations, and I thought of what are angels? Well, they're holy, and thinking of what people today consider to be holy, I kind of wanted to spin it a little bit, and so I thought divinity's definition is the quality of being divine, and I feel that we as all people showing our true authentic selves is a divine quality and a divine presence. So that's what I wanted to convey by showing myself in my truth and my honesty. So that's kind of where I landed on Angel Divinity.
Right now, and for the past couple of years, there has been a lot of controversy surrounding drag queens or just drag performers in general, especially when it comes to the youth. Have you participated in any kind of children's like drag story hour or storybook readings? And if you have, what was that experience like? And what does that mean to you? And what does that mean to the youth that go to these events?
Personally, I have never done a story hour. I've never gotten the opportunity. But also, my drag isn't necessarily for children, and that is okay because not all drag is going to be the same. Not all drag is going to be children friendly. A really famous drag queen, Trixie Mattel, she stated that it's just like movies. Not all movies are going to be okay for children. So, why do all entertainers have to be okay for children? Have I performed for children? Yes, I've done a few brunches. And of course, brunch is kind of open to anyone. They can't really block anyone underage out. So I will take my drag and I will turn it into something that can be child friendly. But for me, when it comes to this whole situation that we've been dealt, I find that drag as a whole is something that I wish I truly had when I was young, when I was that age. I wish I was being taken to drag shows to show that I wasn't alone, to show that I had a community. And as Trixie Mattel stated, again, she stated that we are not trying to change your children. We're not trying to convert them. We don't have an agenda. What we are doing is trying to give them a space so if they turn out to be gay or trans or just queer in general, they have the ability to create a community and to have one faster than we did growing up. That is where my mind is thinking about drag story hour. Yes, I personally am not one to want to do that. I think it's so important because the kids who are getting to see that drag and getting to see that there's a community that they could belong to one day, that's important. So we don't have to fight as much as the older generations or even us now.
As a trans woman and open drag queen artist, have you been confronted by transphobic individuals? How do you manage that?
Thankfully, I have actually never had like a true transphobic attack. Thankfully, like I'm so thankful that that has never been my story. Um, of course, there's been the looks, the stares, and just kind of the internal struggle of trying to fit into the cis world. But again, thankfully, I have never actually had a full blown transphobia attack on me. Knock on wood.
Do you think that's a testament to the safety of Fayetteville?
I think so. I feel that we are growing as NWA in general, as Northwest Arkansas, I think that yes, there is a lot of conservatism here, but there is also a big queer, big liberal movement that's kind of happening here, and it does make it a safer space to live in general.
We've seen more and more Arkansans come out as trans, especially youth and teens. Um, do you have any comments about that?
Yes, because politicians love to say, well, it's a fad. It's something that's just popular right now, and that's why everyone's coming out, and that's why we shouldn't treat it with respect and actual care. But what I've come to see is more people are coming out as trans just because they have a safe place to do it. We've always been here. We've always been here for since the beginning. Trans people have been around, but now so many of us are actually feeling safe enough to come out. I remember seeing the first trans person ever when I was like 8 or 9, and I really didn't understand it. But they were an older individual, and seeing that they were comfortable doing that, but them also being of an older age shows that we've always been here. I've always seen them, but now more people are being able to come out and are in a safer, warmer environment to do that instead of kind of the harsher, toxic reality of the past. I mean, people were being arrested in the 50s just for cross dressing. So, no one's going to come out as trans in that kind of environment.
Why do you think the civil and cultural rights of trans youth, teens, and adults in Arkansas are just being relentlessly assaulted by right-wing conservative Christian politicians?
Personally, I find that we're a distraction. I feel like we're the scapegoat, if you will. There's a lot of problems in politics, to not to get too political, but there are so many issues in our government and in politics in general. And instead of taking accountability and getting the problems that we have solved, they're going to turn everyone's eye to a group of people that are just trying to live so they don't have to worry about people actually seeing the real problem. We're seeing gun violence. We're seeing, even in itself of trans people, we're seeing trans people being murdered left and right. They're not wanting to take accountability for that. Our school systems, our adoption systems, like, we're not seeing those because they're trying to turn a light onto trans people who are just trying to live. I find that these laws that they're trying to pass saying that we're going to harm their children, when the harming of the children is happening, the call is coming from inside the house. And that call has been ringing for years, decades. And instead of picking up the call, they're going to send it to someone else, and that's us. I truly think that, as someone who's having to grow up with it, that SB 43, that bill that was thankfully turned down recently, it wasn't just an attack on drag queens. Yes, drag was a big part of it, but in the subsections, it was talking about just being in clothing that did not belong to your gender assigned at birth. So for me, being a trans individual, yes, drag queens would not get to perform as much, but I couldn't go into a karaoke bar and perform in front of more than 3 people without the cops being called on me. It was my life that was being threatened. It was me getting to walk down the street normally, going shopping, getting groceries, doing anything I needed. That was being threatened. And that's why it's so personal to me, because I'm seeing that there's true issues that should be solved, and rather than those being solved, they're gonna just make us look like the villain when we didn't do anything wrong in the first place.
Are you aware of trans folk evacuating Arkansas in order to avoid things like that? The basically the state's growing transphobic culture. Have you ever considered leaving and going somewhere else?
When that bill was still in place, yes. Thinking about my literal livelihood being on the line, yeah, I thought about it. I've heard multiple conversations of us thinking like, what should we do here? Should we stay? Should we go? And I'm so happy that that bill wasn't passed, and other bills have been taken down because I like it here. I really do. I love this area, and it would just hurt to have to leave, not by my own choice, but by the government making this just a not safe place to live in general. And so I can imagine the amount of people who were trying to leave, who did leave because it's not safe anymore, unfortunately.
What would you like listeners to know about your trans experience in Arkansas?
I think there are two different comments to make about that. One is for the people who don't understand my point of view, who don't get it, who may be cis, who may be straight, who just may not know. For those people, I would say that we're just human. We just want to live, and we wouldn't choose this life if we wouldn't pick this life if we didn't have to. And that is just needed to know, because like I said, everything that's going on in this state right now, it's not making it a safe place to live. But if the roles were reversed, that just wouldn't be the case. And for people who are like me, however, or for maybe youth who are getting to watch this and seeing me, I want them to know that you will find community. There are people out there, and it's growing more and more by the day. I'm so grateful to have the people in my life who do support me and who let my artistry and my creativity grow and bloom. And that's why I've gotten to do all the opportunities I've gotten to do, is the people around me who are supporting me. And I remember in high school, I was not in a good place because I was experiencing all of these horrible things going on. And of course, being in high school in general just sucks. But knowing that there is growth to happen, knowing that there is people to meet, knowing that there is opportunity, that's what's important. And I'm so grateful that I stuck around to see it.
How can people find you, follow you, support you?
On all social media, you could probably just look me up at Angel Divinity on Instagram. Specifically, it's the.angel.divinity. The dots are important, unfortunately. But you can find me there. That's usually where I'm going to be the most active. Or since it's Arkansas, we use Facebook here. And in Facebook, Angel Divinity. Just plain and simple.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
The Transgender Experience in Arkansas is a project of KUAF Public Radio. I'm Taylor Johnson. T is directed and filmed in the Listening Lab by Emerson Alexander, he, him, with audio editing by Sophie Narani, she, they. T is produced by reporter and accordionist Jacqueline Froelich, she, her, and conceived by reporter Daniel Caruth, he, him. Financial support for T is provided by generous KUAF listeners. Thank you for supporting your public radio station. You can stream T at listeninglabkuaf.com.